Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is Theo. He is a meditation coach, and he helps people just self-help.
Mm-hmm.
I met him last night at a kava bar in Sedona, and we're in Sedona right now. What's the name of the kava bar again?
Lacuna.
Lacuna. We're here right now. They let us film here. It's super awesome, and he's a very knowledgeable person about just self-help, subconscious mind, and just meditation. And that's why I'm talking to him now. How's it
Thank you.
going, dude?
It's going well. This is the first podcast I've been a part of in a long time, and
Okay.
definitely the first of someone else's. So it's pretty cool. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, brother. So tell me, meditation. There's different forms of it. There's different styles. What is meditation to you?
To me, meditation is simply the act of directing one's awareness or consciousness for a specific purpose. So, it could be like Joe Dispenza's work where he has you focus on the infinite blackness behind the eyes, which takes you into the void. It could be focusing on going into a relaxed channeling state to do art. It could be focusing on inspiring the body to heal. Uh, it could be focusing on a part of the body just to like pull the mind out of the thought realm to like still the thoughts because all your focus is on one area. So it's just the act of consciously directing one's attention and energy.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually a pretty perfect way to say it.
Yeah,
Yeah, Joe
thank you.
Dispenza says space-time meditations. Like because when you go into the void,
Hmm.
you just forget who you are or where you are.
Yeah.
That's actually I've done that numerous times where it's like I started an hour of meditation and like within 5 minutes I was just gone. And
Mhm.
I, like at the end it's like, oh, it's over. I was like, where was I? What happened? I wasn't asleep. What are your thoughts on that? Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, he talks about that. Like, whenever you bridge into that space, and your conscious perception slips from. I mean, let's look at it this way: the idea of time,
right?
and of course, we're going from the assumption, starting off,
Assumptions. Yeah.
that time is only appearing a certain way within the dimensional framework we have, right? Which our personality structure is created to process that, to interface with that. When we go into that infinite space, and it's why he takes you there, it's like you disconnect from the personality structure to a point that you move into the dimension which time and space are created from, but is not stuck in. And so that's why the perception seems to slip. Plus, you have the brainwave shift, which changes that up. And this is why he says, get beyond time, get beyond space. He says you can't enter that space as a somebody. You have to enter it almost as a nobody because like you have to slip into that place, and then whenever you come back, your personality structure hasn't been you haven't been registering the idea of time that much. That's one way to put it. I might be a bit overcomplicated. I don't know, but
I mean, I talked about it like in every episode. I mentioned
yeah,
Joe Dispenza. Dude, I love that guy.
yeah.
I told you he helped me quit drinking alcohol, which was awesome because something happened in my subconscious where I wanted to stop,
Hmm.
and then I was in those deep meditations, and I did stop.
Yeah.
So it works.
Well, may I ask, was that at the advanced workshop when
Um,
that happened?
so there's a week long. He calls it. It's called a week long
Mm-hmm.
retreat, and once you're at that one, then you need to go to the advanced one, which is like a 4 day one. So it's the week long advanced retreat. That's what he calls it, and then there's a follow up,
Mm-hmm.
more advanced one.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not the week long. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
I actually met
It's really powerful too whenever you have so many people in that space
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Like
He calls
that's.
it one collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, when you have like I mean, more than one person too. At this point, it was 1,400 people in the same place, just being guided in those specific meditations. Dude, just the energy in the room was like spiking. I could just literally feel it.
Yeah.
Literally, like not figuratively, but literally feel it.
I'd love to go someday.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm hoping to make that a
The
goal.
the craziest thing happened is I was having lunch and some guy came and sat next to me and I was talking to him and his brother was like, I mean no, he was like, oh, how do you like it? I'm like, I like it. I'm like, why are you here? He's like, oh, I'm just here helping out my brother. I'm not a part of the group. So his brother came and sat down. Dude, this guy was like pale, skinny, had stage 4 cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and he got chemotherapy a week ago. And the doctor's like, this isn't helping you. You have 6 months to live. Just good luck with everything. And this was like a last Hail Mary for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept in contact with his brother. I followed up with them in 6 weeks, and the guy was complete cancer free,
Yeah.
completely. His cancer mark was below average. When it's average, that means you're healthy, you're good. Like me and you, his was below average. That means he's like really good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so what are you gonna do? And FaceTime him. He's like, oh, I'm going to Cuba with my girlfriend. I was like, holy shit, bro! Like this guy was done. Like when you see a picture of him, or like if you see him with my eyes, like you're like, no, that's it, man. God bless you. You know, I hope you
Mhm.
don't have any more pain. But he was able to overcome that.
Yeah.
Meditating 10 hours a day. He's like, I don't want the cancer. He's like, I want to live a full life, and he just was able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Had a fire under his butt. He had to do it. One way to put
yeah,
it, like
that is
the will to live.
the will to live. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I feel like at these meditations, retreats, people that have a lot of pain,
Mhm.
those are the ones that go the furthest with that because they have some uncomfort. Like versus other people that just want wealth or just want like a nice restaurant. They
Mhm.
want to open up a restaurant. It might be a little harder, but then again, if you're fighting death, dude,
Yeah.
you got that will to live.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, like why do you think?
No, otherwise, why would any aspect of you be encouraged to heal and continue?
Just no more pain and you just want to live life?
I mean, yeah, will to live, like it makes sense. That you would have a greater success rate with doing that. Of course, then you have the challenges with people who, let's say, perhaps that aspect of them, the will to live,
Yeah,
is a little shaky,
yeah,
and that takes other kinds of work often to get that healed. And that's like healing deep pain and whatnot. Then once that starts to come together, that will to live kicks in, and then they can take this stuff and just run with it like crazy.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've seen situations where people can have the tools, but if they don't have the deep emotional healing they need,
Right.
and then there's no really working with it because their will to live isn't really there, or
Got it.
there's a conflict in it.
There's a conflict. Got it.
Yeah,
Maybe they feel like they don't deserve to live.
yeah.
So in their subconscious mind, okay, I got it.
Although that said, I will say that the first time I ever went into as he calls it, the generous present moment, the infinite void space, the first time I ever did that, um, and felt that place, it was the first time in my life I felt like I went home.
Really?
And I literally burst out into tears,
Did you?
and it was a stage of a healing process for me.
That's awesome.
So that's why I spend a lot of time there. Most of my meditations is just going to that space,
Me too.
and then if it feels right, from there creating or doing whatever it is that comes to me.
He
Uh,
calls it the most unfamiliar, familiar place you'll ever go to,
oh yeah,
and it's like pure love. Apparently, I mean, I've gone there. Maybe not every single time I meditate,
hmm
but I've definitely gone there, bro. It's
this
awesome.
this is actually a fun subject.
Go for it.
So whenever I first did this meditation, I noticed the parts of me that didn't want to fully let go. And they were the parts that had this, you hear the divine is love, right? And he calls it
Right.
loving intelligence and intelligent love. Um, and at that time, I hadn't had enough experience to prove that to myself. I'd had a lot of wild mystical experiences, and I had experienced what seemed to be divine love in many times, but I had never fully let go, like so much to the point where that takes you. And I felt the parts of me saying, well, if everything is the divine, right, or this creative consciousness, then how do I know it won't hurt me as much as help me? And that was in the background. It wasn't a conscious thought. I had to spot that resistance that was keeping me from letting go. And there came a point where I was just like, you know what? I don't care. I'm
You
letting go. And when I did, that's when, the heart just, and I fully fell in that space. The heart blossomed. And that's when the thought hit me, I'm home. And that was the first experience I had that could verify to that part of me, this really is pure love, whatever it is. It's pure love.
good? Yeah, I
And
agree. I've seen it. Dozens of people. You don't need to convince me. I mean, maybe some of my audiences, but yeah.
yeah, well, that's the reason bringing it up, because I know I'm probably not the only one having those kinds of challenges. And it seems that it's our resistance to whatever that higher intelligence is that
Mhm.
creates the pain and the suffering. Which ironically, we had to have a level of that to even have the idea of a separate experience and all this. It's like a mechanic, if you will, but like it's continuing that keeps us in the pain and in the cycles.
Yeah,
And that's the great irony of it,
yeah.
you know.
And people that like I talk to this about, and they're like, "Yeah, that's BS." This, that. I'm like, "Well, you should still meditate because there's a lot of scientific evidence that says even 10, 20 minutes a day consistently really helps you out.
Hmm.
Like it helps with anxiety, it helps with emotions, just helps with happiness, stress.
restoring gray matter in the brain.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell me a little more about that.
Just things like transcendental meditation and such. Whenever you spend 10 to 15 minutes a day, um, it's been shown that it tends to rebuild gray matter in the brain, which is basically an insulation, the myelin sheathing and whatnot to help
Hmm.
protect the neurons, from what I understand. I'm not a neurologist like Joe Dispenza is,
Yeah,
but that's my understanding of
yeah.
it. I'm more so my I guess what people love talking with me about the most is consciousness mechanics, dimensional mechanics, and how that works and how to apply that in meditative ways. Um,
The floor is yours, dude. I have no idea what that means. Inform me.
okay,
Enlighten me.
so like whenever I say a dimension, there's several different ideas. You have the idea of dimensions from a standpoint of, like, let's say space-time dimensions,
Hmm.
and different ways of relating with the idea of space and the idea of time, and then collective consciousness and whatnot. And so a lot of people talk about that. The fourth dimension, you're starting. Well, technically, one could say the fourth dimension is time,
Mm.
but from another idea, once you step into a fourth dimensional mind state, it means you're able to see outside of time. Just like we're in time in the so-called 3D, but we can perceive height, width, and depth in a way where we can relate as though we're not trapped by it as much. We can interact with it, right?
Hmm.
Master it. And anyway, so like every dimension step up gives a whole new level of transcendence to these different ideas of space and time. Um, but whenever I say dimension, I'm also speaking about anything that is measurable, and it's a similar idea. One could consider color a type of dimension. One could consider sound a type of dimension. So, like for instance, I do conversations on Wednesdays called dimensional dives, and what it refers to is the idea of looking at our consciousness in all its varying layers and what aspects we can understand and bring out to create the healing, to create the improved relationships, to create the, if you want a particular kind of life, right? And so that's kind of what I'm speaking of. So you have dimensions of oneself, essentially, is what we dive into. Um,
Okay. You dive deep within.
yeah, diving deep within one's own inner reality, one's own,
Subconscious.
yeah,
Mm.
a lot of like, for instance, the ideas of how we relate to others, and how every being that we run into, every experience we run into, we have some level of that theme within us that helps create, that experience. Um, does that make sense? Which is
That yeah.
why Dr. Joe says, your personality or your reality is creating your personality, and then you have to like get beyond that personality and create a new resonance to have a new experience.
Like reprogram yourself in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. He calls it programming or reprogramming.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does make sense. You have to kind of change the way things are and don't allow
Mm-hmm.
the external world to affect the internal you. Does that
Yeah.
make
Or if it does, learn from it, understand what was being affected, so that you can understand how to take that and alchemize it, transform it.
got it?
Which he also shows about that, like writing in these lists of, like, these are the things you're no longer going to do, and then these are
Yeah.
the things you are going to do, and how you are going to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned something when we were having lunch earlier. You
Mm-hmm.
said something about like relationships going to shit because people aren't able to communicate properly or they assume things incorrectly. Can you
Mm-hmm.
elaborate on
Yeah.
that a little more?
Yeah. And so essentially, let's say you have a traumatic experience involving a certain type of way a person speaks, and you end up running across a person who speaks that same way. Maybe they have the purest intents as far as they know, and that they're coming at from that place, but because of how they speak, it triggers something inside to be like, uh-oh. And then that starts creating a domino effect of reaction, and then it could potentially also domino off the other person's trauma and create this back and forth reaction that creates a negative situation, even if one wasn't originally there. And we see this a lot. Many of us can probably relate to having had this happen in our own
Yeah.
relationships at some point. intimate relationships, because intimate relationships are the most vulnerable. They're the most likely relationships to have this kind of thing happen.
Yeah, I've had that
Um,
once or twice.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, both guilty, both sides, bro.
yeah,
That has
yeah.
happened. That was before I started meditating. Now I feel like I'm in more control of my emotions.
Hmm.
So instead of like bursting out or getting angry, I'll probably take a deep breath and just realize what's going on, and then just try to understand the situation more
And communicate.
and communicate. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like I don't mean like question them in a sense or get angry or just like blow up. Just communicate. Like, hey, what's going on? If they don't want to talk about it right now, okay, don't talk about it. We'll talk about it in an hour or so when you're calm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and the communication, that's a whole long subject we could get into. But I stand by the idea that, to me anyway,
yeah,
spirituality, like the ultimate purpose of it is better relationship, like maturing in relationship to ourselves, to the infinite, to each other. Because, like, who cares if you can shoot lightning from your fingertips and walk on water? If your relationships suck, what's the point, right?
yeah,
If we can't understand how to innocently create new alchemies of experiences together, and that's the whole point of free will, or at least a big point of it, how do we bring truly different multiverse perspectives together and share? Because if you think about it on these higher planes,
hmm
but at least this is my understanding, because of the way it works, like, you cannot observe another consciousness that is too far from the frequency that you are in these higher spaces. It's almost like they become their own little, um, like their own little entire universes, right? Of
hmm
just perspectives, or one major perspective, whatever, that revolves around a certain theme. This place, the cool thing about third density, if you want to call it that, reality, is that it allows completely contradicting perspectives to have a chance to meet face to face, to share, and to possibly alchemize, heal, grow, etc. And so, to me, that's why that's why I think a lot of really profound souls actually come here to learn.
Sedona, you mean here, Sedona? Or to
Earth,
Earth. Okay,
yeah.
okay, you're talking about Earth. Oh,
I
okay,
think that's
next
why
level.
some beings call
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
a grandmaster course. You know,
Grandmaster course.
yeah, because there are certain experiences you can have here you can't anywhere else, and there are certain things you can learn about relationship and innocent relating here. It's not the same in these other places, because you're not going to run into nearly the same challenge. You know,
Yeah, that
and
does make
so
sense. Do you
yeah.
think that's another reason people come to Sedona for
It would
he?
seem so.
Yeah,
Yeah, this place,
this place is strange, brother. It
dude,
has
it is.
so much energy. Like, here's one thing, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know about Sedona is just there's a bunch of vortexes here, which
Mhm.
is like energy centers. Correct me if I'm wrong. And when I'm driving here, every time I catch myself, I'm just like singing to the music. Like within the last 15, 20 miles, I could just feel the energy, dude.
Mhm.
And like I'm happier here. I woke up like at 5, even though we went to sleep like at 11:30, 12, and I'm like just charged. I'm charged full of energy, and everyone I meet is like friendly here. I don't know if they're on vacation or I mean you're not on vacation. You're friendly. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
live here.
yeah. You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people are just nice. And I was talking to my Airbnb host, and they said that 95% of people that come here, they're searching for something greater than themselves.
Mhm.
Would you agree?
Yeah, or at least evolving further into that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I hadn't, and I can honestly say, if I hadn't gone through the intensive healing process I did over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
well, 2 years ago, or
Mhm.
I've been here about a year, so the 2 years before that, if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have been ready for this place.
Because I heard all it does is just amplify whatever's going on inside.
That is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So if you're
Uh,
happy, it's gonna amp it up. If you're pissed off, it might amp that up too.
yeah, or a little of all of it.
Yeah.
But the reflections will be very rapid and very in your face. Not nearly as bad as Hawaii, by the way.
Why is stronger?
I was on the Big Island for about 9 weeks in the beginning of 2014.
Uh huh.
That was the longest 9 weeks of my life. And it was beautiful. So much of it was beautiful, and I was used to really strange experiences. I mean, I told you about training with Dr. Greer in 2012 and
Yeah.
being in the Sirius documentary. I've had strange. Hawaii pushed my limits
Really?
so bad.
Can we talk
Yeah,
about that?
like in a good way, but
Oh, in a
it was
good way.
intense.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like And I don't know if it happens for everybody the same way, but I feel like if you go there with the intent, because I thought I was going to live there,
Hmm.
if you go there with that and you're open to the idea of like really advancing yourself and all that, yeah, she'll bring it to you, Pele, or whatever you want to call the island.
Okay.
Um, it was the first piece of land I'd ever been to, the first landmass where I didn't just feel like the land was conscious or at least had a consciousness of it. I felt like it was sentient. Like
Ah.
the rapidity or the rapidness of whenever I could express a need or something like that, and how rapidly it would show up, like within minutes at most, and in the most unexpected ways. It was so rapid that it kind of freaked me out because at the same time, any other reflection could come at you really quick.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it definitely showed me things that I knew I need to work on in the mainland. It actually was a big part of what started making me realize that relationship was the primary thing. You know, I thought about relationships with my family. I thought about relationships with loved ones, and so a big part of coming back was to work on that as
Good.
well,
And and
and myself.
at that time you were meditating though, right? Huh.
I was meditating,
Yeah.
yeah,
And do
during
you
that
think
time.
that helped you have some tools under your belt?
Oh, I wouldn't have made it nearly so long if I didn't. Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, meditate.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I, you know, it was a magical experience for sure. I could go on and on about it, but the point being is, I really do agree. If you go to Hawaii, whatever you bring to the party, that's what's going to get amplified. So
Wow.
just be aware.
Okay.
Maybe not if you go for vacation for like a week or two. I guess
Yeah.
it depends on the person. But if you're going to stay, I don't
Yeah.
even know if that's really a doable thing right now. I haven't been keeping up with
Me
their
neither.
situation,
But I'm
but
sure things will open up and people want to go live in Hawaii.
yeah,
So just be careful and just yeah. Okay. Got it. And meditate. That's like that's what I can keep telling.
yeah.
Um. w- So people that don't have time to meditate, what would you tell them? Because I
So,
run into this issue a lot. I don't have time to meditate. I don't want to. I can't
so
concentrate more than 10 seconds.
okay. It honestly, it depends on the person. I need to find out like where they're at, what their challenge is, and have them try a couple things and find out what works best for them. If I'm going to do a personally tailored thing,
Yeah.
I have found the absolute best meditative results I have had is when I could get into a good meditation for about 15 minutes. Um, the only time I like to go longer is if I'm already having fun. And that's why my whole thing is to create meditations that are roughly 15, 20 minutes, bring fun into it. Because I find when I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing, I can stay in it way longer just for fun, just because I enjoy it and get more results in certain ways. But often some of the most powerful shifts I've had have been within a time frame of anywhere between, I say 15 average, 10 and 20 minutes,
Okay.
sometimes less. And it depends on the situation. But people who are having trouble meditating, I'm bringing that up for the sake of time. Some people think you always have to meditate an hour a day to
No,
have
that's not true.
results, and no, and like it doesn't take that long. But at first, maybe you want to try that to just get used to meditating. Once you get to where you can drop in that space, it doesn't take long. Um, but as far as like helping, let's say, get into a good meditative space, like dropping into that consciousness, the two ways that I tend to work with the most is either focusing on an aspect of my body, because again, meditation is essentially how we're directing our awareness, right, and our
That
energy.
yeah.
So sometimes the idea of having someone drop into feeling the space around them and all that may be a little difficult if they haven't even learned to feel themselves. They're so disconnected from their bodies, right?
Yes.
And so dropping into first feeling the body, like finding, feeling the navel area. In Chinese medicine, you have the three dantians, so I like to have people drop into either here, the lower dantian,
That's the stomach that he has his hand on.
hmm and which is known as being kind of the center of gravity for our chi, for our personal energy. So it's what calls all of our energy under command. It's an immediate coherence builder, basically, for the rest of the field, is by focusing here and building that, right, that conscious connection with that. Or the heart. You can also create heart-mind coherence working with the heart, and it's a different kind of connection because the heart, like it expands and it balances personal and connected with the eternal, if you will, or the external. So either way, working with those, working with both, focusing on both. If you think about it, all your attention is going to the body, and as it's going to the body, it can't be on thoughts. If more and more of your attention is going to the body, and then you catch yourself going into thoughts like, oh, no, back to the body.
I
You,
know exactly what you're talking about, brother.
yeah.
I do ice baths. And I put on Joe Dispenza's meditation, the 15-minute one,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in that ice bath, dude, when it's like 30 degrees outside.
But you
And
hardcore.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, up to my
impressed.
neck.
I'm impressed.
Thank you. And I'm
Yeah.
not thinking about paying my bills. I'm not thinking about my girlfriend. I'm not thinking about this, that. I
Mm-hmm.
am thinking about myself, and
Yeah.
I'm going in, bro, because I'm freezing to death. Literally, I am freezing to death
Wow.
slowly. But here's the thing: after about 3-4 minutes, yeah, the first minute is tough. You concentrate on your breathing, and then like you're going within.
Mm-hmm.
After 3-4 minutes, the pain stops and like it's just like blackness. Next thing I know, 15 minutes is up.
Wow.
So it's like going into the void. That's probably like the
Did you
fast.
work your way up to that?
Yeah, yeah, I did,
Yeah.
bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do ice bath classes where it's like
Mhm.
5 minutes at a time, and then went 10 minutes, and now I'm at 15,
Yeah.
20, 15 comfortably, no problem.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's super impressive.
thank you.
I've actually thought it'd be great to do some of Wim Hof stuff. I do his
Yeah,
breathing, but
yeah. So we do a
and
breathing
cold
class.
showers. But
Yeah, I do cold showers too. We do like a breathing class, 30 minutes, um, like a really intense breathing class where you're gone.
hmm
That's another form of meditation, isn't it?
hmm
And then after you just jump into the ice bath.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice,
He only
nice.
wants like 5 minutes because it's comfortable,
hmm
but I like pushing the limits. But I know exactly what you mean. You go within.
Yeah, basically, if you want to take your mind off of thoughts, find something concrete to put it on.
Yeah.
Put on the sensations of the body, and then after time, you'll start to notice you can feel the spaciousness in your body. And once that happens, it becomes pretty easy to start to feel the space around it. But yeah, basically, just put your attention on something that is solid that you can have a personal connection with, and that takes your mind out of thoughts. Same thing with like the candle meditation
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
thing. You're
So,
just directing attention so that the thoughts are no longer clouding it. It's not going all over the
so
place.
what most people don't know, the candle meditation is you just have a candle, you light it, and then you just sit there and you focus on the candle. And every time you break your train of thought or you catch yourself breaking your train of thought, you just refocus on the candle and
Yep.
the light. And that way, you just become more focused.
Yeah, I like doing the body better personally because, well, number one, it gets you in connection with your body, which frankly I feel like most of us need more of, especially
Yes.
in the Western culture.
Yeah.
Um, and which increases your connection with intuition and stuff. But that's the other thing is it's not like whenever you do that, you're moving your awareness into this great dimensional antenna. This body is amazing. We use a lot of our subconscious to keep ourselves from experience, like consciously knowing what's there. But as you start to focus on the body and the different centers and all, and even just be with them and like really dive in and feel them, it starts to open up awareness of those aspects of yourself. And you can, like, it's real information. It's information that's there. This is what helps open up psychic perception and that sort of thing. It,
Epigenetics.
yeah, yeah. You start building that relationship with this
Yeah.
body, and the different energetic frequencies that are making it up. And to me, that's how you become a more self-aware energy being
Yeah.
through the body. It's just like the greatest antenna ever made.
Yeah.
That you
And
know about the DNA, right? And how it's technically an antenna of sorts.
yeah, you could
So
turn it off and turn it on whenever you want.
yeah,
That's epigenetics.
yeah.
You have your pineal gland, which is a transducer, which is another word for antenna.
hmm
Joe Dispenza, we're on the same level about this. That's for sure. I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I know a lot of people that have done Joe Dispenza's course for the first time or
hmm
just meditation, and they've had like mystical experiences.
hmm
Can you
Yeah.
can you explain a little more why that happens?
I mean, ultimately, it depends on the person,
Yeah.
and that's like, I mean, he talks for hours and hours explaining how these things work.
Yeah.
Uh, so it would
Not
depend on
how it works, like why it would work. Like, is it because people finally go within and they shut out all the external noise, and then they have a mystical experience? Then that might be it. I'm just trying to pick your brain.
yeah, and I mean, ultimately, yes. Whenever you do move out of the realm of thought, and you're no longer identifying with the same thoughts and the same emotions and everything, and you drop out of it, you start tapping into that field, and yeah, anything can happen because
Yeah.
you're tapping into that greater consciousness, which all possibilities are there, right?
Every single
It's already
possibility.
there.
Every single possibility. It's quantum field,
Yeah.
quantum possibilities.
And it's beyond time and space. It's beyond simple grounded material,
Hmm.
matter. So you can commune with various beings on different dimensional levels. You can look through time and space, maybe tap into parallel lives that are happening. Some say past or future, but
Yeah.
at the greater level, it's all happening at once. So parallel lives, that sort of thing. Yeah, just by moving into that space where you let go of the identity enough to slip into that. And what's interesting is I found, at least in my case, it's not like I completely forget myself, because a lot of people think, oh, are you just like letting yourself dissolve to a point to where you're not even aware of yourself anymore? It's like, no, I'm very aware, but it's like slipping into a space that's beyond what I normally think of myself as.
Yeah.
And I really, I can't say what it's like for everybody because everybody's experience
For
is their experience, but
for me, you know what it feels like. You know how you wake up after you press off the morning alarm.
mm-hmm,
I don't know. Within that like minute or two, you have to use the bathroom or drink water. You're like half there. You're half not. You
mm-hmm,
have one foot in the dream state. You have one foot in the waking state.
yeah,
That's how it feels like.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it started off for me. Yeah,
That's how it
absolutely.
started off, and then you
And
want
and,
more.
and sometimes depending on, like, how deep I go and how tired I am.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there comes a point where it's still almost like that, but in a weird way it becomes steadier. And so it's like that state, but you're still very aware.
Yeah. Are you more comfortable now? Would you say
Yeah, very.
you're more
Yeah, yeah.
comfortable being in that state? Because honestly, at first I was like kind of like weirded out because I've never been in there. You know, I've always thought you work hard, you go to college, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, and boom, you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot more to life than that, and I could make all those things happen without having to go to college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I could bring it to me. Like manifest it.
Yeah. I've got a biology degree, a bachelor's in biology, and I've only used it twice since then.
Did
So
you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Most of the best opportunities that I've worked in have had nothing to do with the degree I had.
I have a
So
psych degree, so I use it for whenever I can.
yeah,
But it's probably helped me with like time management, dealing with different people, coming out of my comfort zone. But as far as me talking about Freudian psychology with someone and then making a deal, like that, yeah, that doesn't happen. Like I spent 4 or 5 years. I understand what you mean.
yeah.
Um, do you think it's why do you think people just won't start to meditate? Like, cause in my company, I try to push it on people, not push it on them, but just like when they ask me like, "Hey, what works for you?" I'm like, "It's the inner game. You
Mm-hmm.
build confidence through meditation." And I found out all these things that I've been taught as a kid. Maybe I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. That I could overcome all those things, and I want to help other people, but they just won't really bite. Do you have any advice that I could give these people? Like, come and see you?
I'm not big on forcing things on
Yeah, I
people.
don't want to force it on them.
And you think about it, if someone kept trying to get you to do something that you really didn't see a point,
Yeah,
you might get annoyed after a while.
yeah.
So
But they ask me. That's the thing I tell them.
now, if they do ask you, yeah, okay. So if they do ask you, and they're like, "Oh, great, yeah, yeah," and then they just won't start, that could be any number of things. I know. For some people, it helps to have others as accountability partners, like to meditate together, or to work out together. I prefer to work out with a partner. I just do.
That's what you
I
did
like
this
I
morning,
like
right?
camaraderie.
Mm.
That's how I am. Now with meditation, I can do that alone, no problem. It can be a lot of fun to do it with other people because of how you sync up,
Yeah,
like we talked about, um, with the events.
yeah.
But it might be helpful to be like, okay, let's pick a time. We're those who are ready. We're jumping on at this time. We're doing this together, and we're just gonna have our experience. And if we want, we could share our experience after and compare notes. And that
Nice.
way, it becomes a communal thing. There's a camaraderie in it, and there's something special about that.
There is. There is. There's
Yeah.
one consciousness, dude. When you're
Mm-hmm.
meditating, you have a certain level of energy. And when you do it with like 10 people, the energy is just amped. You
Yeah.
do it with 1,000 people, dude, sky's the limit. No, sky's not even the limit. There's no sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
understand? Yeah. And on a last note, What would you say to people that are just having a tough life? I ask this question to everyone, and they just need some help, or they're in a rut and they don't know really how to get out of it. What advice would you be able to give them? Like, some people say
Ooh,
just breathe.
that's again too general a
Yeah,
thing.
too general of a
It's
thing.
too specific. I have never once found a cookie cutter answer. What I can say is that in the time that I've been doing what I've been doing, um, I've come to find that different people sometimes require different tools, right? Um, there are times working with materials such as Dr. Joe's
Yeah,
works great for me.
yeah,
It does what I need. There are times it doesn't, and I need to do something more like shadow work, which I know most people in that community aren't a fan of. But it's helped me where I couldn't get past it. Once I've done that, and once I've started to heal
hmm
that deep relationship within myself by giving myself whatever it is I need, and I know shadow work is a
I don't
touchy
know what shuttle
subject.
work is. Can you tell me what that is?
It's the idea of diving into the parts of ourselves that we've abandoned or pushed away
Yeah,
so that they can be seen, heard, felt, and understood. And
interesting.
you can begin to heal whatever pain is locked in there, begin to release it, relieve it, shift it. Now, what I've found is whenever I do that and I spend some time and make some good headway, then I go back to, let's say, the more yang approach, yang and yin,
Yeah,
the more
yeah.
yang
Switzerland.
approach,
Yeah,
which is like create your reality. It works way better. It's like so much easier to get in that zone, hold that frequency, and continue forward. So I found that some people work really well with the yang. Some people need the yin. And in all honesty, I think it's always a dance. It's always it's windy. It's always a dance between the two, right?
yeah.
You need to know, and I have found if there's one thing I keep seeing across the board within this life, every time people get dogmatic and say this is the only way, there comes a point when the universe is like, you're still not getting it. Look at this.
It gives you something else.
There was a time veganism was the answer. Now you hear about the carnivore diet curing cancer and all these different things. And the whole point is, I don't know that it's about dogma. I don't know that it's about rigid rules as much as how present are we? How present with life and our own unique flow with the infinite are we?
Got it.
Is this helping?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Is it
fine.
scratching a
Yeah,
bit?
it's fine, brother. On the
But
last
you
note,
see my point.
yeah, I see your point.
Be conscious. Be here.
Be here. Be in
Yeah.
this present moment.
Yeah.
Got it. On the last note, when people come to Sedona, they want to hire you for like a meditation class or just a one-on-one meditation. How would they be able to find you?
Uh, so right now, I just opened up a Facebook business page, Alchemical Adventures,
Okay.
and the idea behind the name is I want to bring the inner child and playfulness back to the spiritual community, to spiritual works like meditations and whatnot. And so it's an adventure in creating personal alchemy through play, as well as including the discipline, but in a playful way. And so that's what all of our stuff is based on. I'm big into inner child healing. I'm big into innocence. And to me, that aspect of us is probably the most easily directly connected to the divine out of all of us.
Got it.
So,
Cool. So they'll find you on Facebook,
yes.
and I'll leave your comments.
Alchemical Adventures.
Alchemical Adventures, and I'll leave that in so that people can click on it and just come straight to it. Right on, brother. Thank you, Theo, for
Yeah.
coming on. I
Thank you.
appreciate it, man. Thanks for clearing up meditation. And ladies and gentlemen, since you like this episode, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.